regular meeting of the Board of Education, July 19th, 2016 at 7 o'clock p.m. Kathy, could you please call the roll?
Blakely.
Here.
Dryden.
Here.
Gaspar.
Here.
Block.
Here.
Lowe.
Here.
Here. Got a flag shirt on?
Drummer.
Here. Mr. Stoops, would you please lead the pledge?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I know that's right. There's a ton of painting here. Are there any items removed or added to the agenda tonight?
There are not.
Excellent. And Kathy, did we have anyone here to make public comments?
Not a soul.
Excellent. And I see some BPS friendlies, but did anyone want to address us this evening? You sure? All right. And we do not have student ambassadors tonight. So we're moving right on to the consent agenda. Dr. Hitchens, could you please present the consent agenda?
Yes, we are missing our all-time consent agenda administrator, Steve Pierce, but I will do my best. So in the consent agenda, the first three items you could see are the approval of meeting minutes from last month. You could also see the personnel report. We have quite a few miscellaneous spots to fill, I would say, and we're doing a good job of being up and ready for the school year to start. We have payroll and bills. We have donations. If you look at donations, those are some Arboretum donations. You guys saw the sign last week that was in the, or last month in the board book. I showed you what the sign would look like. And so now we're going to ask for your approval of that sign so they can order it. And there's also a bench that Mr. Gabriel has been talking to Mark Anderson. I know you had some concerns last month about where that would be, and they talked about locations for that. So that would be still a little bit to be determined, but they did talk about how they would secure the bench to make sure it didn't up and walk away. Then we also have the destruction of closed session minutes. We have our classroom usage agreement with Mid-Valley. As you know, we host one Mid-Valley program in our district, and we have a classroom usage agreement for that, and that is located at the high school, and the agreement is standard. It is for all intents and purposes, the same as last year. And we have our copy paper bid, which is very exciting. If you recall from last year, we're down about 34% in paper, and that would be due to a couple of factors. The price did go down a little bit, but also we have a new way of storing the paper at the maintenance facility and easier to get the paper exactly in the quantities that we need. And also with the Chromebooks and our other technology advancements, we are using less paper. So that is the consent agenda.
Any questions, concerns on the consent agenda? Then I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Lowe, second by Stoops. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Lowe.
Yes.
Stoops.
Yes.
Blakely.
Yes.
Dryden.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Block.
Yes.
Drummer.
Yes. Next item on our agenda is our reports, and Dr. Hitchens is also handling reports tonight.
So every month, you guys are, part of the duties of the board are to make sure that we are responding to FOIAs in a timely manner, and we had one this month that Tony did respond to, and you could see that there. Any questions about that FOIA? Treasurer's reports, again, those are monthly reports for your monitoring. And as you all know, everyone in the community knows, I believe we have construction going on at the high school right now, and I know the board is interested in an overview of the project and seeing if we're on time and how that's going. So Mark Anderson is here to talk about that, Director of Operations. Mark Anderson.
Glad that everybody came out to listen to me tonight. Basically, I'm going to give really an overview of the stadium, and if you drove by this week, you should be seeing lots more activity over there. And as I was talking to the contractor yesterday, he's like, well, it's a good sign when you start seeing the field turn white. That means all the stone's going on. So that's a good sign. Construction has, and contractors have their own language sometimes, and that's one of them for field turf. Field turf is scheduled. That's the actual installation of the synthetic surface. That is scheduled for next week. So hoping that Mother Nature doesn't start raining on us tomorrow, The stone should be done, so basically they have to put floor drains in. And basically it's a very thin layer. Then there's a grid that goes down and then stone on top of that. And then, so that's being done by Hoppy's Landscape. And then Field Turf, which is a company that has turf, they will come in. They're scheduled next week. That is, the normal time frame for that is about 3 to 4 weeks. So as long as weather is good, they move pretty quickly. That's all they do. And they will move quickly because there's other area schools eating it, and we're ahead of them. So that's a good thing. I made sure of that. So basically, I hate to throw exact dates, but you're looking at about the week of August 15th for that to be done. While all of this process is going on, they're also going to do some asphalt repairs to the track. Basically, they took the track surface off, and as you do that, you look underneath, there's some asphalt that needs to be repaired. So we did walk that. I know Tony was involved. We walked this last week. We usually have weekly updates, sometimes on-site, sometimes off-site. We were on-site this past Thursday. Identified those areas, see the time frame. The important part for the track is that the asphalt gets laid because that has cure time of around 30 days before the actual surface, the track surface, the rubberized surface can go down. So again, we're in that time frame right about that 3rd or 4th week of August. And so some of you are thinking, varsity soccer, first home game is September 6th, and then football is September 16th, which is homecoming. So if everything goes well, they'll be able to be on the turf field at that point.
Corn boiled is iffy yet?
Corn boils, yeah, I would say very iffy. And it really was very iffy from the start.
Yeah.
Booster Club knew that. I've been in conversations between myself and Dave Andrews about that. There's some question about even being in there, but really for safety reasons, because they won't have like the fencing back up.
Okay.
There will still be, restoration things that have to be done. I know their boosters are talking about exactly the setup for that. I'm involved in all those details. Those haven't been worked out. They're trying to wait as long as possible
Yeah.
to see. So, that's
So the location's iffy, the event is not.
correct. Yes. Yeah. Event's still scheduled for the 19th of August, the Friday. That hasn't changed to my knowledge. I know they're meeting this week to discuss final, plans for that. I think as far as ahead or behind schedule, it's hard to give a definite answer on that because they build in that time, just in case of rain. So that time was built in. Yeah, we didn't get much rain, but they still have that to fall back on, meaning the contractor. Other contractors, meaning the concrete contractor, kind of delayed things. They're called curbs, before the curb that goes around the perimeter, and for like the long jump, triple jump hits, that was delayed. So there was a delay. That was part of the delay, and of course that has to be done before the next step. But all in all, it's moving forward. Like I said, there's lots of stone that was delivered. I was out there today, so as far as I know, no complaints from neighbors about too many bomber trucks going by their house, so that's a good thing. I would say, as far as other summer projects go, we're moving along. Unfortunately, the summer just, especially now that I'm in this role, summer seems like it's getting shorter and shorter. Really short this summer. But I tell you what, the maintenance crew's doing a great job. I'm very proud of those guys. We have a great seasonal crew as well. They show up for work and they are there all day. I say that kind of kiddingly, but I also say because sometimes you don't know. I mean, you hire some, seasonal kids and you don't know if they're going to show up every day. But these are, and so that's a good thing. And we're within a month of school, so it's going to be here pretty quickly.
So all the cement is done that has to be poured?
The only other pour they do separate is the long and triple jump.
Okay.
Is that still inside the stadium, or is that going to be relocated outside the stadium?
The long and triple is now on the basically not inside, it's just outside of the track on the south end.
Just south, yeah.
So back in my past life of being a Rotolo administrator, where all the Rotolo kids are normally, that's the end it's going to be.
Oh, okay, so,
Playpen.
There we go.
Call it the pen.
Are they gonna, are we
Kim
gonna
Corral.
allow the middle school kids
Well-
to still be back there, or what, how are we gonna handle that?
That to my knowledge, I mean, I'm not as into that realm anymore. I don't know if that's been decided or not. I mean, really in that area, they can't be in that area because then they'll be running around in the
Right.
pits and
Yeah.
sand pits and,
Not
yeah.
safe.
I'm pretty confident they're going to figure something
12
else
through
out
14-year-olds.
then.
Well, I mean, it's a lot of kids
Right.
that do that, so they do need
Do
to
know
figure
that.
something out.
So that is scheduled to get poured this week, as far as the last pour, so that would be the last as far as that goes. There still has to be the goal posts, those have to be poured as well, but that's on schedule, that's usually last anyways to get poured.
When you said where the gravel's all going, there was some drainage and all that, where's the drainage all going into? Was there other pipes that were going
Yeah.
out someplace?
All of those have been put in, those were installed
Okay,
probably 3 weeks ago, and the majority of that goes into the, basically the Main Street side, into the detention area that we
Okay.
have. So all of the water is getting, from the field and from the surrounding area to that plant.
and then once they put the turf down,
Mhm.
is there a number of days that you have to stay off of it or anything, or once it's done, we could go on it and all
Yeah,
that?
once it's done.
I know it's different than from the track and stuff,
Right,
so I was just, okay,
yeah. The track piece is, the asphalt part has some time before they can put the coating on, but once the coating's done, you can walk on that, so you can get on that. As far as the track, getting striped, actually the final track striping is not completely done. We are meeting, I say we, myself and Dave Andrews and the architect are meeting either Thursday or Friday to go over that final. There were some things about, some details that still need to be worked on, I'll just leave it at that.
okay, and there was no big surprises when you guys started digging anything up, so everything's been good?
No,
so any change
Good.
orders that came from the project?
Well, there was one original one.
The
that was
mesh.
done. Yeah, the GeoGrid. That was the major one.
When you say major, what's the dollar figure that's attached to that?
Well, we had to spend some money for that, and we also were able to save some money.
Yeah, so I don't know what the,
I think the net effect, off the top of my head, was $50,000.
5015.
50.
yeah, I was guessing 40, but,
Is that because of like soil depth differences from a hard packed
there
was a
lot
clay
of
surface?
black soil in that.
There's
state.
an extraordinary amount of black soil.
Like-
Which is typically good,
That's
but not in our
It's a bond,
application.
yeah.
Really?
Right.
Right, when you're, tilling fields to plant corn, it's really good.
Right.
Good for it.
So essentially, they had to put in a plastic grid that kind of bridges the soil and kind of distributes the weight across the soil so
Mhm.
that it doesn't sink.
Yeah, it's like a mattress type system, a grid system.
Right.
Did they increase the size of the pipe that goes under Main Street, as was discussed?
Yeah, they took the restrictor off, so there was a restrictor that restricted the flow of water. It was actually 4 inches, and we met with the city, and now we took that completely out, and now it's at 15 inches. So the concern as far as, can that hold the extra square footage? There's not a concern. And what that also is going to do is, as most of you know, when that floods, it takes away playing surface for practice areas.
Right.
So the dirt that's being stockpiled right now is going to go in that area, and we're going to try to, get some better grass growing there, and then utilize that more for practice area as well.
So building up the floodplain
Building it up
area?
and really
or-
just getting some better, black dirt in there, and,
Got it.
because that's
Yeah.
really, actually, it's very good black dirt. The contractor told me, he goes, if I was closer, I would be taking all the black dirt. He goes, it doesn't make sense for trucking costs or, but, yeah, there was, I mean, 3 feet, I think,
Yeah.
when we tested.
Wow.
How much black dirt.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mark.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks,
That's
Mark.
Exciting.
Good to know.
Yeah.
So we do have 2 action items before we go into closed session. So, and there will be an action item after closed session. The first is the policy report. This is the second reading. We talked about this briefly in June. There are some new statutes, 3 of them specifically, that mandate what concussion protocol needs to be, and the board needs to establish a concussion oversight team. And this is the policy that's recommended from press. So the team That's probably the biggest change. So the team consists of the athletic director, athletic trainer, the nurse, a physician, and their job is to make sense of the return to play protocols. So when a student suffers a concussion, if anyone suspects a concussion, the student, the parent, the ref, a coach, if anyone suspects it, the student is removed. And then they need to go to a physician to be cleared to go back to school. And once the physician clears them, then they have to go to a return to play or a return to learn protocol. They have to go through those steps. So return to learn would be, what do we need to put into place before the student couldn't be actively engaged back in the classroom? And then return to play, if they're playing an IHSA sport, there's quite a few steps that need to be taken. And so this team that is being created would be the team that makes sense of those protocols that are all, the Lurie's Children's Hospital has recommended those protocol, and the CDC. So all the resources are out there. It's just using them and making sense of them for Batavia. So that team's job is to make sure the protocol are in place, to make sure the emergency plan is in place. And so that's major changes to that policy.
Do we know who those auxiliary people on our team are going to be? You said a nurse, is that like our school nurse?
Our certified school nurse,
Okay,
yes.
what about the doctor?
I'm not sure who the doctor is.
So is that somebody that we then are required to hire, I'm assuming, to consult with us?
That we have somebody that also already works with the athletes, so.
Awesome.
Yeah, aren't there physicians that volunteer for different schools to do that?
Nice.
Yep, so we have an athletic trainer, we have our school
Yeah, I knew we
nurse.
had the three
Dave
that
Andrews
were
is on here. Josh, I'm assuming.
That's nice. Excellent. Okay.
So do you guys have questions about that policy? We're not getting fancy with this one. We're taking the press recommendations because there are so many things that have changed related to concussions. Obviously, this is our priority to make sure all of our students are safe, especially ones that have been injured and we know that there have been cases, not in Batavia, but students returning to work or to play and to school too early.
Right. Seems like a good change.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions on that policy? Then I would entertain a motion to approve policy 7305, student athlete concussions and head injuries, as presented.
Move. Second.
Moved by Blakely, second by Locke. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Blakely.
Yes.
Dryden.
Yes.
Gaston.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Lowe.
Yes.
Yes.
Trump.
Yes.
Okay, the next action item is the Alternative Learning Opportunities Program. So last month, we talked about this briefly. You had a board retreat that you mentioned that that would be a priority for you to look at alternative learning opportunities for students who aren't successful in the traditional setting. And we had been working on an application. There are so many steps that need to be taken prior to implementing something like this. This is the first official board action. As Dr. Newkirk mentioned last month, there's a couple other steps for us to take before we could actually be up and running, but we don't want to put the cart before the horse. And so before we could begin this, we have to agree to work with the ROE on it because they're the official providers of or they're the flow through, the funds go through the ROE to us and they're our partners in this. So before we could be approved by the state, we have to say, as you could see in that report, that we'll be working with the ROE on this. So if you did approve this, then the next step would be to go in and find the staff, identify students, and really begin being a little bit more inclusive in the conversations because we didn't want to get too far before there was any approval. The board wouldn't be spending any money tonight. That would come later with staff if we purchase staff to go along and to support the program. If we hire staff. It's like a purchase. If we hire staff for the program, so that would come later with another board vote. So tonight you're not spending any money, you're just giving us permission to keep talking about it and working on it.
And what's the anticipated timeline again?
As the students return to school, they're the building level intervention team, and I do have two people here that'll help me answer these questions, so they're going to either answer this or tell me if I'm wrong. So the building level intervention team will start to identify students in the fall, and when those students are identified, there would be an intervention in place. And if they aren't successful after that 6 weeks, then hopefully we'd have something up and running for them. So students identified after returning to school in the fall, and then 6 weeks of intervention to see if some minor adjustments can help get them through, and if not, they'd enroll in the program. Bob?
Right, I think
Lisa?
we're looking at after first term.
After first term.
Okay, I got two big questions. What are we using to identify students? Tell me it's not a survey. And two, how do we define success?
So we're looking at students, in order to be eligible for the program, you have to have a history of academic failures, I guess. When you look at the students' grades, that's number one. The state says you have to have a history of academic failures. And then we also, in order to get into the program, we're going to try to identify students that have 2 or more of the following struggles with, it's either going to be a social, emotional, like a depression, anxiety, substance abuse issues, attendance issues, and then the last one is minor discipline. So a student would have to have the academic failures,
Right.
and then 2 out of 4 of those as well. And as far as your second question is how are we judging success?
What does success look like?
I would think that if we can get the students, these students are not on pace for graduation. They're behind credits. So if we can get them up with their peers as far as credit goes, credit-wise, that would be a success. We can help them out, obviously, social and emotionally as well. You know, as far as substance abuse, working with our drug and alcohol counselor and overcoming some of those battles that some of our students face.
Okay, so these kids will be in this program for a while.
I think they have to hit 80% of their goals, if I'm not mistaken, Lisa, and then they are exited.
Similar to an IEP, each student has to have an individual success plan that's written and approved by the ROE. Each student could have different goals. So if it's a student, for example, that's been frequently hospitalized for depression or suicide attempts, part of that feedback could be the fact that they're staying out of the hospital. For attendance is going to be a big piece of this because we have so many students that we're doing homebound tutoring with right now. So we'll be looking at, are they able to be in the school setting instead of spending so much time at their house with a homebound tutor? So the attendance piece, working with their outside counselors will be a huge part of this. It's very much a community, bringing the community together, work with the families, how can we all support each other? And all of that is written into the individual plans for the students.
Lisa, you said the ROE will write that plan. Will we have an
Who's
active
that plan?
participation?
We actually write the plan. The ROE is kind of like the stamp of approval.
Okay,
that
that's what I was
the plans are
assuming.
Individualized, that we're choosing the right types of students for the plan. For example, some districts have made the mistake of choosing kids that are externalizing behaviors and internalizing behaviors. We really work closely as a team to say we want to focus not on the kids that are constantly getting in fights or super disrespectful teachers running out of the building, those kind of things. We wanted to focus in on the kids that are having more of those internalizing behaviors like the depression, suicide attempts, drug use, those kinds of things, just for their more success. So the ROE kind of helps us balance that and gives us feedback along the way on this is what's working in other districts,
Okay.
and this is what's not working.
So the ROE is going to pretty much be more of an overseer
Absolutely.
than getting their nose in to where you guys should be able to do the work.
Yes, they trust us to
Okay.
run the program. They trust us that we know our students.
Okay, good.
We already have students in mind that we've been watching very closely,
Mhm.
but we didn't want to make that assumption starting the year and just say, okay, last year was bad for you, you're going to start the year in this new program. We really want to take a closer look at the students and try other interventions first, because it is a big decision.
So they have to, so I'm just, want to make sure I understand a little bit, that they have to have both the failure part and the other part also. So they can't just be failing
Correct.
and just go in there. They have to have something in this side too, or they can't just have this and be passing everything. So it has to be the combination.
Correct.
Okay.
The academic failure is the number one component that you do need.
But then they have to have that other
Yep.
side,
Just one
something.
other side or two?
Two out of four.
Two out of the
2 out of the 4. Okay.
At least
All right.
2 out of
All right.
Well, yeah, at least. Yeah, some of them are experiencing it.
4 out of 4.
all four.
Yeah.
Okay, is
And
this
I-
a voluntary program or is it involuntary?
It will be a volunteer program.
It's
What's the
voluntary-
parental-
I'm sorry, you said voluntary?
Yep.
Okay, so no student can be put in this program without their consent.
Correct.
What was the hesitation
The
there?
reason
So
I'm
clarify.
hesitating is because some districts do use this as another option in lieu of expulsion. So we could, as a district, decide to talk to the board about a student that we would normally talk about expulsion with, and we could say, you could do this program instead of being up for expulsion. So that would be still their choice, but it could be more presented in a different way.
Can you explain then the parental input on this process? I mean, how would they be involved, or do they have a say? Can they opt their child out of this program, or?
The parents, if the child is under 18 years old, the parent has to sign approval. I mean, there's an actual contract. So they have to say, yes, I approve of my child being in this program. So they could say, not interested at all. And they could, throughout the time, decide that it's not an appropriate program, and it would be similar to an IEP meeting. So the team would come together to decide what happens next for the child. The way that it works is if a student is pulled out of the program by their parents, we still have to support them in some way because we made a commitment to the child. So they could be back in the gen ed setting, but we still have to have someone from the ELOC program checking in, monitoring their grades, and supporting them throughout that school year. We're not allowed to just, because we do have more impulsive students that'll be a part of the program, and also somewhat more impulsive parents as well. So we have to guarantee that we're going to continue to support the kids even if they make that decision in some way.
Would
But
this-
in all honesty, you're already supporting students in those circumstances anyway, right? I mean, that's just a continuation of any student that's struggling with those things. You're already trying to support them every way you can. So it would just be a more formalized
Yeah.
system of what I'm assuming you're already doing.
More
And
individualized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And giving the option to do it at school, because right now a lot of this is done in our homebound setting with not as much support. So these kids can actually start school later in the day and stay later. So if they're just a student that has a hard time getting up in the morning, there's going to be some vocational pieces that are aligned here. So helping with area businesses that want to employ kids. So there's going to be that big piece. And actually they have the option then to stay until 4 o'clock, which is very different.
Would this be,
It's $5.
would this be something that the kids, when they get in, would have to stay in full-time for a while before they can even maybe go out for a class or so? Or are you waiting for them to succeed all the way through before they exit?
There may be students that are actually going to be enrolled in a regular core academic class within the building
Okay,
for part of the day. Whether they need a lab science, for instance, they're going to go there and then come back for their A-Lab program.
okay,
As far as, we're never going to keep them in forever.
okay. No, that's what I'm trying to figure out, when you doing a program like this and you're trying to help them, to put them back out there sometimes, it might be more hurtful in a way, because they're going to be back out there with their
it's
friends or
gonna be
something to get them back off track again. So I'm just wondering, until they have the option to
Each
improve.
individual, each student will be different. It'll be a different case for each.
Okay, the other thing is, and my understanding when I talked to Lisa about this, none of the kids that have to go through this really have, it's not board approved or anything. This is all administrative wise. So would we still have the opportunity, if the kid comes up for an expulsion, to put them in there? But I thought, wouldn't they already be possibly in the streamline to go into that class, right?
It's possible that they would have already been in that program.
Okay.
And then another option would be if a student does make some choices that might put them on a path to expulsion, we can look at that student and see if they'd be appropriate here. Or if we did bring them for expulsion, of course, you could ask those
Okay.
questions as well.
Because this isn't the highest risk.
Right.
I'm sorry?
This
Right.
isn't our highest risk population. Correct? There's.
As far as behaviors, they're not the
Yes,
highest
yes,
behaviors.
this is not highest behavior. This is trying to get kids who are more needing the intervention
And
intensely.
And do not have anything.
Right. So there may still be situations
Mm-hmm.
that we have
Especially if there
to,
was an extreme
Right.
behavior that happened, that would be something that we would consider right away for something alternative.
How many students will you be able to handle it, serve at one time?
We're looking at what we've identified right off the bat, 30 to 40 students. We're hoping to get about 20
bills.
We're still going to identify more students when we get back to school within session. We're going to speak to counselors, social workers, everybody who's involved with these students and find out who our best matches are.
So Tony, if,
Okay.
John and I were having a discussion sidebar here. Is this is a funding reimbursement type program through the state, so it's retroactive the year prior is when we get funded? Can you just explain a little bit more about like the promise to fund or fully funded? I mean, this isn't an unfunded mandate by any means. This is something we're applying to get into. But what is a redemptive cost that we can expect in something like this?
Well, it's based off of the foundation level, which is $6,119. And essentially, that's the minimum amount of money that the state of Illinois considers to be adequate to educate a child. And we know that that's actually not in fact the case, but that is what it is prescribed as law. And that's what our funding formula is based off of. That's what general state aid is based off of. And we're on the alternate formula. We're not on the foundation formula. We receive money based off of that foundation level. And so each year we receive about $400 and some odd dollars per student per year in reimbursement for the state based on their attendance. So the number of days that a child comes to school essentially determines how much money that we get reimbursed from the state. And the same would be the case in an ALOP program, but the state actually reimburses us that full foundation level. So based on the child's attendance, they would reimburse us up to $6,119 per child per year. But if the child wasn't in the program for the full year or the child did not attend school, we wouldn't receive that money. So we would go from something like, rough math, this program would have about 25 students in it, roughly $11,000, maybe $12,000 we would receive under the standard formula from the state of Illinois, and it could be as high as about $150,000 for this program. And that does it, so essentially, to be clear, the funding doesn't reimburse us for all of our costs, it reimburses us for student attendance. So we're not going to be made whole, but certainly we would recoup a significant amount of the costs related to this program, if it remains to be about 1.5 staff.
Would we get any money through special education or anything?
It depends on if there are special education students in the program.
Okay.
But we are doing some reallocation of the program that is kind of exciting. So as you guys all got to meet Kim Boatner, our certified drug alcohol counselor, at one of our last meetings. Because of the needs at the high school, we're actually, she's going to be full-time at Batavia High School next year, because she's seeing so many more kids there consistently and really felt like she wasn't having as much of an impact that she could have. So she will naturally be a part of the program without adding additional staff there. And then we're looking at, I believe, a teacher and a paraprofessional. A teacher or a teacher /
Okay,
counselor.
it's, so we're not as concerned with core academics with this program as other things. Do I have that right?
Well,
Are we more interested here in social, emotional development as a priority as opposed to core curriculum?
I would say social emotional development and credit recovery. So they'll be doing more of the online curriculum piece because we do want the kids to strive to graduate. Some of the kids that right now are showing little hope of that. So they will be involved in the online program, and that's why there's the teacher and paraprofessional that can rotate and support the kids, work in small groups. Kids can support each other if they're both working towards, a credit in, whatever class, but they'll have access to whatever they need credit-wise.
And it's our hopes to put someone in there as far as a teacher with an English and social studies background that can deliver our district curriculum as well, if need be, based on the student.
I think it's an amazing opportunity.
I do too.
I think we have a lot of things to do, and we're going to have to work really hard together, but I think it's an incredible need in our district, and it's a huge opportunity for our kids, and I've seen it in neighboring districts be very successful, and it's actually something the Valley has been using ALOP fund for the past 2 years, and it's the one check that comes consistently from the state. So it's very exciting that, and they're pushing us to do this, so.
And it helps kids graduate so that they actually do graduate and don't drop out and end up having to go through a GED process. So
And for our kids that are afraid to come to school for whatever reason, they will have complete autonomy as far as what their program looks like. So they can come in a different door at the building and go right to ALOP and focus on credit recovery. And when they're ready to go to an art class, because that's the class that they feel the most successful, and that'll be a part of their program. So I think the high school is super focused on getting the kids involved and the parents involved in this program, and I think they've put a great deal of thought into this.
I also think it's entirely consistent with our mission, vision, and values. I mean, individualizing programs for our kids is where we see we need to be meeting every kid where they're at. And so this gives us an opportunity to really reach out to the kids who are struggling and who might not make it otherwise. And we're giving them one more chance to have success. And I think that's really exciting.
Can you just refresh my memory, who in King County uses it?
North Aurora, or West Aurora School District has a program, Mid Valley has a program, and then I believe the one that we looked at.
Oak Park River Forest.
Oak Park River Forest.
So just 2 in King County right now?
But there's
Okay.
so many in
Just wrote one for next
DuPage
year.
and Cook.
And St. Charles is working on a plan right now.
Okay, all right.
And the reason we went to Oak Park is because they've been doing it for a while, and
Don't they have
And
several?
they have the differentiated
several,
programs.
Right.
yeah, they have several different programs, and it's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Okay.
Carpentersville is working on one right now as well. And John, I thought about an answer to your other question. So Tony and I were just working on the budget today. $56,000 will be spent in hometown tutoring for our gen ed students last year. For our gen ed, not special ed students. And the special ed students was even more than that.
But
Okay.
even, it costs the district money, am I correct?
No, I know, I'm just,
Yeah,
I just, I know,
have to
and
pay
we
for
have to
safe
be
school.
fiscally
That was
Right.
for
Right.
that too.
Right.
And this isn't going to eliminate that
No.
completely,
No.
but alleviate,
Right.
hopefully.
but then if you can get money from other places, if it's special ed funds, or if it's title funds, or other grants, or anything else to help out, I mean, that's great, so that's
Yeah.
why I just brought that up. So I know that it does cost money out
Yep.
from outside too, so, thank you.
Any other questions? Then I would entertain a motion to authorize the superintendent to enter into an agreement with the Kane County Regional Office of Education for the purpose of creating an alternative learning opportunity program, also known as ALAP.
Second.
Moved by Blakely, I'm sorry, who seconded?
Stoops.
Jason Stoops. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Blakely.
Yes.
Wright.
No.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Lowe.
Yes.
Stoops.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes. Right. When do you expect that we would hear next steps on this, Lisa? I know it's not fair because Brad's not here.
You know what, it would need to move really, really quickly from now. So
Okay.
we have 2 meetings in August. And I
So we'll
would
see something
expect
yet.
something at the second meeting.
Excellent.
I need a point of inquiry. When we started this discussion, I thought what we said was we're going to talk about talking about it. You're going to continue the discussion.
Correct.
Well,
You guys
this
have
allows-
it-
And the
we can't
motion, I
even
think the
continue.
motion that you just put forward was to actually create the program.
No, the
I'm
motion
sorry,
put
could you read
forward
the-
was for Lisa to enter into an agreement with the King County Regional Office of Education because we cannot apply to the state until we have that
Can
agreement in
you just
place.
read the motion again for me
Yes.
one more time?
We authorize the superintendent to enter into an agreement with the Kane County Regional Office of Education for the purpose of the ALAP.
Thanks. I think you just voted to do it.
All right, that was all of our action for tonight. We'll move on to comments. Dr. Hitchens.
I do have a visual aid for this one. Lisa Placey and I usually get invited to the Mid-Valley Partners Breakfast, so we do have 53 partners in the Fox Valley area, the Tri-Cities area here that work with Mid-Valley and employ the students and bring in the coaches and the students to work with them. And in Batavia, there's several partners that welcome these students, and the experience is so valuable for them. We had students at the Batavia Nursery, the Batavia Parks, Closed Metro Homestead, Jewel, Petland, and Water Street Studios. And I think Lisa can attest to how much it means to these students to have these experiences.
Life-changing.
Life-changing. And they're so excited too, to, you know, some of them go to multiple places and have multiple placements, and that's just the highlight, I think, of their week, to go to their places of employment.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
That's it.
Oh, that was it. All right, let's start with Sue tonight. You got nothing? All right, Mr. Lowe.
Still enjoying summer and glad to see everybody out and enjoying it also, especially all the Pokemon players. Hopefully they're shopping at all of our businesses.
Thanks, Andrew. Mrs. Blakely.
I don't have anything.
Mr. Stoops.
And I'll ask for your apologies first because I got quite a bit that I wanted to just review here. I wanted to start off by kind of bringing concern that I've had from a couple of different middle school parents and I that have been having discussions where it seems that we've all been in agreement that our K through 5 parental engagement within the schools have been great. And there seems to be a bottleneck that forms 6 through 8. And then it seems like it balloons again to open up to then really calling upon, parent participation in the high school again with our boosters and our different athletic clubs and our music buffs and affiliations and such. So I kind of want to bring a challenge to us as a district and maybe even to Brian Swempke as well to see if we can widen that bottleneck a little bit more, have some more parental engagement that we're able to take part in, creating more, community-centric focus for those of us who may not have a child at grade school, middle school, high school, but to be able to maybe foster some more community relations development, continuation through grade school into middle school. Second, I wanted to go in through the EMAB that I'm on. That's the Education Matters Advisory Board. That's the one that was created by Congressman Randy Hultgren and was asked to join that about 6 months ago. Received an email here that Congressman Hultgren is very aware of our 2 biggest accomplishments and celebrations in our school district this year, our involvement with the John C. Dunham STEM School Partnership and the Rotolo Middle Schools to Watch designation. I had the good fortune of having a phone conversation with him. He also brought up that BPS was also honored with the Best Communities for Music Education and our designation for the NAMM Foundation for its outstanding commitment to music education. We're only one of 8 districts to receive that award this year. Some legislative stuff. I know this is so fun, but June 30th is when the education budget for FY17 was approved. They approved a $361 million increase over FY16 levels. I don't think we're going to be seeing any of that, though, here at Batavia, if I'm not mistaken.
We should see a little bit.
A little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we're going to get a little bit of that. There's appropriations in place for public schools to get increased funding over this year's levels, over last year's levels. But also remember, it's only really a 6-month budget. Hopefully we can carry this progression forward into FY17 talks. And we as Illinois still don't have a general state budget, so little successes, I guess you can say there. Which brings me to like a call of action. I would ask all of our community to be cognizant of this. Not only when it comes to our budgetary matters as a state, but as a school, as a county, as a community. You're always free to call your senator or House representative. I would like to remind you that Jim Oberweis, Republican, is our 25th district senator. His phone number is 217-782-0471. Our House representative is Mike Fortner, Republican, 49th district. His phone number is 217-782-1653. I don't understand that, so I'm not going to talk about it. A couple things with being, in the city council meetings and just giving a quick TIF update to everybody here. Essentially, we're not being asked for a set-aside a waiver for TIF 5. So really, we're not involved in the process anymore. The construction project that's now called 1 East Washington, I believe, in TIF 5, where the old Baptist church is seeming to move forward, but that's all city-driven, not school district-driven. They're going to be having apartments in there for the time being. It's forecasted at 171 units, with 99 of those being 2-bedroom units and 72 of them being 1-bedroom units. The city has their assumptions of how many potential students it might bring to our district. Those numbers are still up in the air, I guess you can say. But the city is not asking us for a set-aside provision as when Mr. Aston came to talk to us about TIF 4 and TIF 5. So we're off of that. But they are going to be adding 14,645 square feet of commercial property. From how I understand from essentially Washington, it's going to be seen as a 4-story structure. It's 6 floors altogether, but 2 floors are sub-level. So those are parking garage structures and such. Quick fact here, the EAV for the existing properties is $255,000 a year. We get $8,500 in taxes generated from that. Not we as a school district, but we as a community. They have an estimated cost of $40 million to construct this. The developer's putting in $30 million of his own money on this, so he's very vested in this. That's going to result in a final fair market value of $23.5 million, and that's an income basis. Since it's a rental, it's not essentially like I put a $50,000 addition on my house, my EAV goes up $50,000, which looks to net a $7.8 million EAV after the project's completed, and they're looking for a completion date sometime in 2018. They don't have a date for that just yet. Let's see. I thought we had something really cool that came up on the last council meeting. We had 5 officers of Batavia Police Department get the Illinois Associations of Police Chiefs Life Saving Award. I think that was in the event that was affiliated to when we had the lockdown at our high school. And they went, obviously above and beyond in order to provide their services. Both, those officers gave more than what you just generally see a police officer would do. They really personally engaged and put themselves not only in harm's way but in help's way for those for that gentleman, and happy to see that outcome there. And then bringing up, you said that like the employing students and such. I actually employ 2.5 students with my business as well. So actually graduating students, graduates of BPS. So
Thank you.
yes, and they're good workers. So that is it for me. Go Bulldogs.
Nice to know, and Jason's showing that not all of us are having a summer slide this year, so good job.
Right.
Mr. Dryden.
I just wanted to go on record. Last month, I unfortunately couldn't be here, and the board voted to authorize administration to go through student activity accounts and to remove money that they thought they could remove. I was emailed, I know that Megan Kelzer, who was student activity director of the high school, resigned her position in protest. I was sent a copy of the student activity budget before and after. Did the rest of you receive that?
The one in the board book or a different one?
Ms. Kelzer emailed this over to me, so I assume it might have been in the board book. It just itemized account by account, the before and after picture, and you all went through that, I'm sure. I can't really see rhyme or reason for a lot of this, and I do know that I got the feedback that I got from the teachers who had my phone number, and I should probably get my number changed. I can't say it was a positive. I can't say the feedback was positive. There is a general feeling out there that maybe we authorized more money to be taken than we should have, or they didn't really quite understand the process, etc. Anyway, I want to thank Ms. Kelzer for her service, and I hope that we can get this smoothed out in the future. That's all I have.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Mr. Gasper?
Just thank everybody for answering my questions for this board meeting, and congratulate Mark on your new title, and the best for you. I know you have your hands full with juggling everything now for a while, so good luck. Thank you very much.
I have no comments. We do have a closed session tonight, and there's expected action after the closed session. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session for the purpose of litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting. So moved.
Second.
Moved by Locke, second by Stutes. Katie, would you please call the roll?
Blakely.
Yes.
Dryden.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Stutes.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes. All right, thank you for everyone who showed up tonight.